everyone. Welcome to Bayou Sugar Garden. I am Bayou Sugar, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome in. If not, welcome back. And don't forget, while you are in here, hit that like button. And if you would be so kind to share me out, just in case someone has not received the notification from YouTube that I am live, so that they will be able to catch the content as well.
Smoking versus
Hold on,
vaping.
let me pause my stuff. But hey, I'm biased. Welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And for those who are, I should have went live through my StreamYard or my EV mug so I could do my claps, but I don't got them. So, anywho, um, thank y'all for being here. Those who are live in the chat, those who are in the bushes, and those who are catching the replay. If you're catching the replay, be sure to leave me a comment to let me know that you were here, and I do respond to my comments. So, hey, Bud Files, welcome in. Thank you for being here. F. Smith Welch, hey, boo boo, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So, this morning, I wanted to come in and share this video that I wanted to share with you guys a few days ago. And I'm charging my car. That's why I keep looking back. Let me check and see. Hold on, guys. Let me check and see how much charge I'm on. Okay, we doing good. I'm gonna let it get to, what is this? Let it get to I'm gonna let it get to 80, I guess. So just to make sure before I go any further, guys, put a 1 in the chat to let me know that you can hear me and see me very well. I'm going to be sharing a video with some good information that I found, and I just want to share with you guys. Thank you guys for letting me know you can hear me and see me. What is the weather like in the Valley of the Sun? Right. It is currently 80 degrees right now, and it's nice and beautiful. I guess I can show you. It is nice. Clear day. A few clouds in the sky, but it's nice. Yeah, I'm in the parking lot of Wallet Works charging my car up. A nice, beautiful day. A nice, real beautiful day, you know. And yeah, a nice, beautiful day. Hey, just gifted, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So, just wanted to share this information with you guys. Y'all know when I come across information or something that somebody send me, I like to share it with y'all. So, we just gonna go ahead and get into this. Let me make sure my screen ain't too dusty, ain't no glare on it, so y'all can see it. All right, so it's clean now, it's clean. So let's see, let me turn it around, and I'm gonna raise my window up because I want the volume to be loud so you guys can hear it. So just so you know where I'm coming from, this is on YouTube, The Diary of a CEO. You've been shopping for that new outfit. Look, Miss Sonia. I am not, but I will be. I will be. I'm getting ready. Look, I gotta wait, drop a few more pounds so it could fit me just right, you know. And then we'll be good to go. Good to go. Yes, yes. So let's see. All right, so let's get our video started. Hello, Miles Sykes. We're gonna watch this video. No music today, but join us another day and we'll do music. All right, here we go. Let me make sure the volume is up.
When we're looking at smoking versus vaping, vaping is probably worse in terms of the damage to the airway and the insulin resistance that comes from it. But this gets worse because we know that insulin resistance is the core for most chronic diseases that are killing us, and there's a handful of other lifestyle habits that's contributing to it.
That's horrifying. So tell me everything.
Dr. Benjamin Bickman is a leading metabolic scientist.
His research focuses on the hidden epidemic of insulin resistance and its devastating consequences.
And by regaining control of your insulin levels, he says you can regain control of your life.
Insulin is a hormone that affects literally every single cell of the body. But if those cells become insulin resistant, you start to spread the disease. For example, they call Alzheimer's insulin resistance of the brain. And even the most common forms of infertility, erectile dysfunction and PCOS, insulin resistance is a heavy contributor. Now, 88% of adults in the US have some degree of insulin resistance. And people hear this and think America is just fat and metabolically sick. But we're not actually the worst country when it comes to this. And part of it is because of how different ethnicities store fat. And I'll come back to that. But there's two roads to insulin resistance. So there's the fast lane, and I could make you insulin resistant in 6 hours with either of these common three things. But if I removed them, your resistance would go away just as quickly. Now, the slow lane, that's a problem. And there's certain lifestyle habits and problems with our diets that are massively contributing to slow insulin resistance. Now, thankfully, this can be resolved through 4 pillars, which are very simple.
We'll get into that, but why don't we just sack all this off and just take a Zanpac?
Well, because people may not know about the negative side effects. For example, 40% of the weight that people are losing on these drugs is coming from...
Holy...
Hold on, y'all. I got to turn on some air because I got my windows up and I ain't trying to cook myself out in this Arizona heat. But he just giving y'all just a little brief overview of what this interview finna be like.
Looking at smoking versus vaping, vaping is probably worse in terms of the damage to the airway and the insulin resistance that comes from it. But this gets worse because we know that insulin resistance is the core for most...
Whose research focuses on the hidden epidemic of insulin resistance and its devastating consequences.
And by regaining control of your insulin levels, he says you can regain control of your life.
Insulin is a hormone that affects literally every single cell of the body. But if those cells become insulin
What's going on,
resistant, you start to spread
Cropper?
the disease. For example, they call Alzheimer's insulin resistance of the brain. And even the most common forms of infertility, erectile dysfunction and PCOS, insulin resistance is a heavy contributor. Now, 88% of adults in the US have some degree of insulin resistance. And people hear this and think America is just fat and metabolically sick. But we're not actually the worst country when it comes to this. And part of it is because of how different ethnicities store fat. And I'll come back to that. There's two roads to insulin resistance. So there's the fast lane, and I could make you insulin resistant in 6 hours with either of these common three things. But if I removed them, your resistance would go away just as quickly. Now, the slow lane, that's a problem. And there's certain lifestyle habits and problems with our diets that are massively contributing to slow insulin resistance. Now, thankfully, this can be resolved through 4 pillars, which are very simple.
We'll get into that, but why don't we just sack all this off and just take a Zanpac?
Well, because people may not know about the negative side effects. For example, 40%
What's
of the
going
weight
on,
that people are
G-Mama?
losing on these drugs is coming from...
Holy... I have been forced into a bet with my team. We're about to hit 10 million subscribers on YouTube, which is our biggest milestone ever. Can
We
one
can fast forward that.
is hit the subscribe? What is the mission that you're on?
My mission is to help people appreciate that much of chronic disease, we look at them as these siloed, individual, distinct disorders with totally distinct origins, and yet much of them share a common core. It's as if they're branches growing from the same tree. And the conventional clinical care will look at these branches and give someone a prescription for a medication, which is only going to prune the branch back a little bit, never actually solving the problem. It can just grow right back. And so we can look at most of these chronic diseases that are killing us globally and then say, okay, there are in fact some simple lifestyle changes that can be implemented that will help reduce the risk of not only 1 or 2, but all of the top killers, from things like Alzheimer's disease to heart disease to type 2 diabetes to liver failure or fatty liver disease. All of them share a common metabolic core. That's my mission.
And what is that common metabolic core?
Yeah, it's a little known problem called insulin resistance. In fact, when I first started this topic I stumbled on one paper that documented how when fat tissue is growing, it increases the risk of type 2 diabetes. That was a concept in the early 2000s that was really getting a lot of attention. Diabesity, this kind of dual epidemic of
Hey, my
wherever we see
Renaissance
obesity, we
grandma.
see more type 2 diabetes. And this manuscript outlined something that was to me a revelation at the time. It was so fascinating where when fat tissue is growing, it starts releasing pro-inflammatory proteins. That inflammation caused a problem called insulin resistance. And then that got me into this realm of understanding that other tissues of the body, as they become insulin resistant, then you start to spread the chronic disease. And essentially coming to the conclusion that something like hypertension, high blood pressure, which is the most common cardiovascular problem and the main contributor to heart disease. Well, insulin resistance is the main cause of hypertension. They call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, or more accurately, insulin resistance of the brain. Even the most common forms of infertility, in men, it's erectile dysfunction. Well, that's because of insulin resistance of the blood vessels. In women, the most common form of infertility is polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS. That's because of the insulin resistance affecting her ovaries and the ability to produce the proper sex hormones.
I guess the really important question here is, what is insulin resistance? And can you explain this to me like I'm a 10-year-old?
Oh yeah, for sure. Insulin resistance it's a disorder that has two parts. It's like a coin with two sides, that as much as we think of one
Hey,
side
my Renaissance
just because we hear the
grandma.
word insulin resistance, but there's another part to it that is very important. So insulin, first of all, is a hormone that we make from the pancreas, a long kind of gland tucked underneath the stomach. And the pancreas is a very busy organ. It makes a lot of different hormones. It makes hormones that come into the blood. It also makes enzymes that go into the intestines to help digest food. But among the hormones that are being released into the blood is insulin. Now, in the person with type 1 diabetes, their immune system has destroyed their beta cells. So they don't make insulin anymore. That's why for a person with type 1 diabetes, insulin is a life-saving therapy. You're giving them what they're not making anymore. But for everybody else, we have beta cells and they're releasing insulin when they need to. Now, usually the main reason the beta cell is releasing the insulin is because blood glucose levels go up.
So I eat sugar.
You eat sugar, or not even something as obvious as sugar, but bread or crackers,
White rice.
chips. Oh yes. So basically anything that falls into the family of a carbohydrate. So if the earth grows it, that's a carbohydrate. If it's a plant, it's a carbohydrate. Maybe that's a better way of describing it. And so it's going to have starches and sugars, which all kind of falls into this family of carbohydrate. Depending on how much starch or sugars that it has, then that will result in a bigger or smaller blood glucose or blood sugar response. But then if blood sugar is too high for too long, that becomes very harmful to the body. So insulin comes in and helps lower the blood glucose. And then having done its job, insulin comes back down.
So insulin comes out like a taxi and transports all the glucose in my blood to various places around the body to store them.
Perfect. Yeah,
Just
and
like
the
a
main
Okay, so I just want to pause that so y'all can realize how important insulin, which is a hormone, is, and how it affects every aspect of your body, and how it is important for us to have it and make it. If you don't have it, those people with type 1 diabetes, they don't have it. What's going on, Mr. Terry? Then they have to get those injections to get it so that they won't develop all these other different issues. If you think about it, think about the people that you know in your life that has type 1 diabetes. Okay? Normally those people with type 1 diabetes, they don't just have type 1 diabetes. They have a whole bunch of other ailments that come along with it. And most likely, those ailments were recognized first before they realized they were a type 1 diabetic. They probably started off with hypertension, which is because of they don't have the insulin. Probably started off with high cholesterol, which is because they didn't have the insulin, and a whole bunch of other problems, which the bottom underlying problem was the type 1 diabetes, if you think about it. Let's see. So why do they give people with type 2 insulin shots? So you mean type 2? Well, type 1 takes shots. Type 2, some people with type 2 do take shots, but mainly if you taking the shot and you're a type 2, then that means that somehow your pancreas is not making the insulin as well. So only reason why you would be taking insulin shot is because your pancreas no longer makes insulin. Your pancreas is no longer functioning and no longer making the insulin, which you need to regulate all functions of your body. Okay, so we're gonna let him continue to explain it, and it'll kind of make a light bulb go off. Because when I listen to this, to me, and I'm a medical professional, so to me it probably sounded clear. But anything you guys don't understand, ask me and I'll do my best to try to explain it so that y'all can understand it. Hey, Gina, she says listening while working. Okay, no problem. Yes, David, it's for regulation. They give it to you to make sure that you have it. You need this hormone in order for all other things to function properly in your body. And you heard him mention glucose. That is also important. It is also important for different functions in your body. Let me stop. Hold on, y'all. Let me stop my charger. And we're going to listen to about 5 more minutes. Then we're going to relocate. So hold up. Let me sit y'all right here while I stop my charger. All right. So let's see. Here we go. Let's listen to a little bit more.
Yeah, that's right. You can look at it's a shuttle, it's a taxi saying, "Hey, glucose, come on in. I'm dropping you off at the muscle." So mostly, just as an interesting tangent of insulin, before I finish answering insulin resistance, insulin will open the doors for blood sugar to come in and drive the taxi in, mostly at the muscle and the fat. Muscle and fat tissue need insulin to come and bring the sugar in via taxi. However, other tissues, and the brain a little bit as well, other tissues will still respond to insulin, but they don't need insulin to tell it what to do with the sugar. It just takes it in. But even on those, like the liver, for example, if the liver sees sugar driving by in the taxi, it just opens the doors and lets it in. It doesn't need insulin to come and tell it to let the sugar in. However, even at the liver, and every other cell has a similar degree of this, the liver doesn't know what to do with it. So this is back to something I'd mentioned earlier, where insulin's thematic effect of the entire body is to tell the body what to do with energy in all of its forms, as these kind of caloric-rich molecules, what to do with lactate, what to do with ketones, what to do with fats or glucose, what to do with amino acids. So insulin will tell the body what to do with all of those things.
David.
But again, its most famous effect is to control blood sugar. And that's not wrong, because its most powerful activator is blood sugar. So with all of that in mind, insulin resistance is two problems wrapped into one. The one problem is the most obvious one, which is that insulin isn't working as well as it used to. So back to the analogy of the taxis dropping off sugar, if the muscle tissue has become insulin resistant, insulin is coming and trying to pull the sugar-loaded taxi into the muscle, but the muscle's not listening.
So say that again. So the insulin's coming past with the glucose inside it.
Well, not
Carrying
technically,
it.
yeah, but just to sort of go with your metaphor, but maybe to use another one, insulin comes and knocks on the doors. It's like the bouncer
Yeah.
at the door. It's coming and knocking on the door of the muscle saying, hey, muscle, I've got some sugar that wants to come in. And normally the muscle will say, oh, yeah, sure, okay, open it up the doors and let the sugar come in. When the muscle is insulin resistant, the bouncer's knocking. Maybe there's even, I'm almost getting ahead of myself, but one bouncer, maybe 2 or 3 bouncers pounding on the doors of the muscle cell, but the muscle cell's not listening. It's become deaf. That's the insulin resistance of what we call insulin resistance, where some of insulin's effects, like helping lower blood sugar, it's not working very well anymore. And the muscle is just an obvious example because there's so much of it. You know, it is the biggest tissue on the average individual. Someone who's very obese perhaps now has more fat tissue, but even people who are overweight, most of us is muscle. So it's a good tissue to look at. So part of insulin resistance is that of all the things insulin is trying to do, including lower blood sugar, it doesn't do it quite as well as it used to. Some of the cells or tissues of the body have become deaf to insulin's demands. Now, however, at the same time that's happening, insulin levels are higher. And that is really important. And I'll mention an example in just a moment that highlights the difference between the two. But we have to consider, anytime we talk about insulin resistance, we think of 2 things happening in concert. One, insulin isn't working quite as well as it used to in various places of the body. At the same time, insulin levels are higher. And that kind of takes us back to the muscle cell, where I've mentioned, getting a little ahead of myself, that a bouncer is knocking on the door, and once upon a time, the muscle cell would hear that one polite knock from that one bouncer, or one molecule of insulin, if you will, and it would open the door and let the glucose or the blood sugar come in. But now the muscle cell, the bouncer, insulin's knocking on the door, but the muscle doesn't listen, it's resistant. And so the body has adapted, and it learns, okay, well, if one bouncer wasn't enough, let's send an angry mob of bouncers. And then the muscle will start to open the door, and indeed it can. So those 2 problems go together. On one hand, insulin isn't working as well as it used to. That's what gives it the name insulin resistance. But there's another part that is equally present, which is that blood insulin levels are higher. Now, there's earlier at the outset of the conversation, I mentioned that even infertility has an origin, has some degree of development because of insulin resistance.
Okay, let me pause him before he go any further, and because I need to drive to my next destination. But it is important for me to explain to you guys, to make sure that you guys understand the part that he was just trying to explain to y'all about am I in drive? About insulin. So I think he explained it pretty good about telling you how insulin works. It is basically the hormone or the entity or the substance that goes before everybody, or goes before each energy source, or each molecule that each cell or each organ needs, and it goes basically warning, announcing ahead of time that, hey, this is coming, or I have this for you, letting them know before it actually gets there, or just announcing them before it enters into whatever organ or system that it enters in. I hope I explained that well. So for instance, like he was explaining to you with glucose being given to your muscles, and we have muscles all over our body, whether it's the muscle tissue in your heart, the muscle tissue in your thigh, the muscle tissue around your stomach, the muscle tissue around your lungs. Insulin goes around to each one of these different systems and let them know, hey, I have this substance for you And usually how it normally would work, if once he says, hey, I have it for you, thank you, Mr. Terry, I have this for you, then normally, if the body's functioning normally, it will open up, receive what it has, and things go on normally. But as he was saying, with insulin resistance, for whatever reasons, various different reasons, and he will explain that to you too. Sometimes when insulin goes and says, hey, I have this, they won't receive it. And that's how somehow you get a buildup of insulin in your blood system, because it knocks one time and it says, okay, it's not there. I mean, they won't listen. Well, maybe if I send some more reinforcements, it didn't listen to this one. So maybe if we got 2 of us here, maybe it'll open up. Maybe if we got 3 of us here, maybe it will open up. Maybe we got 4 of us here and we open up, and it never opens up, and it just keeps sending more and more out. So that means your body, your blood has more and more insulin building up inside of it, right? So that's how you get a buildup of insulin in your blood. Let's see. Hey, Gardner 99, welcome in. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, this person is just like was trying to rev on up to me. But with this video, I will definitely put the after this live, I will put the video posted on my community tab, so you guys can go back and look at it at your leisure, just in case you miss something. I've watched this video several times, and each time I'm able to get through it at this one session. I will get through at this one session. I will get through a pretty big chunk of it. I want to say it's almost about 2 hours for this whole video, but we'll get through it, as much of it as we can right now. And then once I get home a little bit later this evening, we can watch more of it and discuss it together. But I just wanted to get it started this morning while I had some time, and I'm gonna be sitting for probably another about 20 to 30 minutes in a parking lot. We're gonna share some more of the information. So if you guys would just give me a second. Am I buffering right now, guys? Let me know. Am I buffering right now? Hey, Miss Shirley, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Oh, it has, to the P-Post tab. Oh, I'm gonna have to look at that. I hadn't. I think mine's probably still say community. I hadn't looked at it in maybe about 2 or 3 days. So guys, put me some ones in the chats to let me know if you can see me and hear me, and then we'll continue with the video. So I'm pulling up to the parking lot right here. Okay, thank you, Miss Shirley. Pulling up to the parking lot right here, and then I can put the video on. I can't put it on while I'm driving because that mode deactivates while you're driving. I can't put YouTube on. My monitor doesn't work to watch YouTube while you're driving. I guess it's like a safety feature to keep you from being distracted while you're driving. But yeah. Oh, okay. Trying to sit up. But I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. I am having a wonderful Tuesday, and I'm happy that I'm able to. Hey, almost homesteading with Janet. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Has been changed to the post tab. Oh, okay. To the post tab. Well, I will have it there for you guys to click on it and look at it at your leisure. Guys, give me about 30 more seconds and we will continue with the video. But guys, always remember you can always type SHUGA in the chat. Nightbot will drop your link so that you guys can connect with each other. And also, I do have the feature that I just figured out how it works. I put the command in Nightbot, but I forgot what command I put in there. But you all can drop your weather now in my chat. Phone call. Sorry, it wasn't the internet. It was a phone call. Okay, so we reached our destination. So in order for you to drop your current weather in my chat, all you would have to do is type word weather and followed by your location that you're at, and Nightbot will drop your weather. Okay? All right, so now we at our destination. Let me turn y'all around and let's get some more information about this insulin.
And it's a perfect example of both of these parts of insulin resistance, where in some instances, insulin isn't working very well. Always with insulin resistance, blood insulin levels are higher. So for example, erectile dysfunction is the most common form of male infertility. In fact, its connection to insulin resistance is so strong that just a few years ago, I was so struck by a title of a paper that had just been published, which stated something like, is erectile dysfunction the earliest manifestation of insulin resistance in otherwise young, healthy men? Now, what is the connection? It's because in a normal erectile function, in order for the man to have normal erectile function, he has to experience a pretty dramatic increase in the size of the blood vessels in his body. The blood vessels expand, that increases blood flow, and then he has normal function. Part of that signal that tells the blood vessels that it's time to expand is actually insulin. And so this is what I said earlier, where insulin does so many things in the body, and we only think of it as being relevant to glucose, and that's not fair. Insulin does a lot of stuff, again, including telling blood vessels become insulin resistant. So they stay constricted, blood flow stays insufficient, and thus he has erectile dysfunction.
Look, I don't want to be insulin resistant.
No, no one does. No one does.
So tell me how it happens.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so the origins are so important because it helps us.
Are we back now? I don't have a second device to, well, I do have a second device to check, but I'm using it to show y'all the video. Hey, Homesteader Rachel, thank you for being here. Let me know if y'all can see me. Let me know. 1458. Let me check and see. Hold up. Let me check. I'm gonna make sure that y'all can see me. I remember 1458. That's where we are on. 1458. 1458. Okay, we back. Okay, 58. Okay, we back. Hold on. I can't see and hear you. Okay. Give me the ones in the chat. Let me know y'all can see and hear me.
When we're looking at smoking versus vape.
And I'm gonna get us back to where we were. So I've known a lot of people with that suffer with diabetes. That's what I was saying before we lost the connection. Hey, Deborah Garrett, thank you so much. I've known a lot of people that suffer with diabetes, a lot of child dysfunction because of the effect of insulin not being able to do its job. And so I just wanted to amen or echo what he was saying, that you have diabetes, erectile dysfunction. So, okay, so let's continue where we left off.
Your insulin resistance would go away. So these are fast causes, and they're fast resolution. They are stress is a primary cause of fast insulin resistance. So too is inflammation. And then lastly, and this is going to sound somewhat paradoxical, too much insulin is also a cause. And I'll end with that one because I think it's the most important. Then transition to slow insulin resistance. So anytime the body is experiencing too much stress, it will very quickly become insulin resistant. Now, as a professor who teaches endocrinology, no surprise, I define stress in the context of hormones. And there are two primary stress hormones, cortisol and what we call in the US epinephrine, or in the UK adrenaline. Those are the two stress hormones. Now, those hormones are very distinct. They have almost nothing in common. But like when you are feeling a little stressed, it's both of those, especially adrenaline / epinephrine, that are making you feel a little jittery. It's making your heart beat a little faster. You're a little more alert. That all starts to play into a stress response. But what those two hormones have in common is that they both want blood glucose levels to climb. It's kind of their way of saying, hey, we don't really know what's going on right now, but we want to be ready to run away, that's the fight or flight kind of aspect to stress. And so they want to push blood glucose levels up, and they do very well. That, of course, puts them at odds with the hormone insulin, because these two, epinephrine or adrenaline and cortisol, the two stress hormones, they're pushing glucose up. Insulin wants to push it down. So the more the body has those stress hormones elevated because of, say, sleep deprivation, that's a very effective way to increase cortisol. Or they are drinking too much caffeine. That is a way to increase